We have covered this Clemson-Ohio State matchup about every conceivable way, but I don't think we would have really accomplished the mission had we not had on Bobby Durkins to get the Clemson take on this one before the two teams hit the field on Saturday night. Bobby, how you doing tonight?
Man, if I was any better, I would be you. I would be you. So thanks for having me on. This is a great game. We talked earlier in the season, and now our two teams are going at it. It's awesome.
So I know this. So we've got Brian Knight on the line, Bobby Dirkins on YouTube. And when you tell me that if you were any better, that you would be me, it reminds me of your buddy Pigskin Pete, that you guys mix it up. Of course, you guys are buddies, and he comes on all the time. And of course, his line is that he's just doing amazing and fantastic and just can't do any better.
Yeah, now I'm not that, but hey,
he's that guy.
He is that. He is that guy. He's great. He's a great friend. You talk about a football fan, man. He loves it. Very, very passionate and great to work.
So anybody watching us here that's not familiar with Bobby Durkins' character here on YouTube, you just check out his Clemson football talk there. It's just Bobby Durkins. I got it right there on the screen. Check him out right here on YouTube. So, Bobby, let's talk about your team. Let's talk about, before we get to the team, I am fascinated with the whole character, the whole setup, everything that you do here on YouTube. And certainly I've had you on 2 or 3 times, and you've entertained my audience, and people love it. And where did this come from? Where was the origin for all of this?
I hate to say it. It's people I've met, and maybe even a few people I'm kin to. And I just ran with it. Some of the sayings I say, like when I open my show, I give a good old hearty, that confuses so many people. They're like, I get so many messages. What are you saying? And this is a true story, Mark. So I'll make it fast. I know we want to get to the football game, but this is where it comes from. In my family, I have a lot of general contractors. They actually build homes. So they would have some of these good old country boys, some of them redneck, they pull up on the job site and they're trying to talk to somebody 2 or 3 acres away and speak to them. And when they were saying, hey there, telling them, hey, it would come out, may there. So I just ran with it. So that's where I got that from. And I just have a lot of fun being this crazy redneck who just loves Clemson so much that, he'll just bust out crying thinking about Dabo Swinney. So I just, it's actually been about 3 years that I started this, and I've had a blast with it. There's a lot of people who still believe that Bobby Durkins is a real guy. I really love that. That's great. That's funny. That lets me know I'm doing my job. Then there's other people who knows that it's a total act, but they can't help themselves but come back. So it's been great to do this. It's been great to meet people like you who would have me on your show.
Well, the first time I had you on my show, I had a number of people contact me and ask, is that an act or is that guy real? They didn't quite know. They didn't want to pull the trigger and commit to either side on that one.
Sure. It's scary because there's some stuff that I say and some things that I do that you go, there's no way that's real. And then there's some things I say and there's some things that I do on purpose that makes you go, well, maybe he is. I mean, like, for instance, Bobby Durkins' job is, well, the name was refined. You know how government will refine names and so on of certain jobs to give it some more dignity. He's a feline control agent, but Bobby just simply says he kills cats for the county. So every now and again, I say that, and you have some people who goes, that's definitely a joke. Definitely that's not a position with a county office. And then there's other people going, maybe it is because he seems really passionate about it.
Hey, if you can sell it with passion, then you convince some people. That's certainly part of the deal right there. Bobby, wouldn't necessarily have been too happy with MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, a few weeks ago after the South Carolina game when I went on a bit of a rant after Dabo Swinney went on his rant about being disrespected, and I thought he was whining a little bit.
Oh, now remember, this is me talking. This is not Bobby. I understood what you were saying.
Oh, Bobby, you took that in.
Bobby on the other hand, he didn't appreciate it. He didn't appreciate it. He was pretty upset about it, but Bobby forgives. He somewhat forgets, and he's fine now. He's still a Mark Rogers fan.
Oh, that will cause me to get a few winks of sleep tonight. Certainly.
Absolutely.
The one thing I will say is that you can appreciate this, certainly having done this YouTube thing for quite a while now, is that there's what you say and try to clarify. Now, this may be out of Bobby's jurisdiction here, but actually what is said and what's clarified versus what people think you said and what they take off on. So I clearly started that video by saying, I think Dabo Swinney is arguably the best football coach in the country. He has built arguably the best football program in the country. And on top of that, I think he's an outstanding guy. By all indications, he seems to be just a tremendous man who has been a great role model of faith and integrity and character for his players. I just have a few exceptions to a few things that he stated after the game.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you this now, of course, this is where my blood runs orange, where I love my Tigers. I get it. I get what he's saying. I get that he's playing the crowd. He knows who he's talking to. I think that also there's the annoyance that sometimes here we are. If you talk to if you talk to a fifth-year senior on Clemson's football team, this is their fifth consecutive college football playoff, which, I've been a fan for Clemson. I can barely remember the Danny Ford days, but I can remember them. And so I've been a fan from coming out of that period on into, the craziness that created Clemsoning. We created that. That was something Clemson actually created. They wore it like a fine tailored suit. They owned it. And they had to break out of it. So I'm even pinching myself now going, wow, we're 5 consecutive college football playoffs, But I think the disrespect, that there is somewhat of a disrespect, the whole talk of they're not battle tested and so on. I know that gets some tempers flared. It does me at times, but I will say this. At the end of the day, if I'm a non-Clemson fan, that's the first thing I'm going after, because it's going to be fun to pick at people about. It's going to be fun to go after Dabo Swinney, because at the end of the day, when you look at Swinney, what is there to criticize? This man's a genius. He's done great things. He's brilliant. We just signed our best recruiting class ever. He just has things rolling. That doesn't mean that we're not going to lose this thing. I believe we're going to win the whole thing, and as you should feel the same way about your team. But this guy's done great things. But yes, there was a lot of people who did not like his rant and his reasoning behind it.
So you kind of stole my next question, and that's just I would expect you to be supremely confident, and Clemson fans should be, based on the performance, not just of this team, but again, this is different regardless of the schedule, regardless of the dominance or the level of the schedule, again, versus had somebody come out of nowhere and won all its games against this kind of schedule, and we'd still be questioning, okay, how good is that team? If it was another team in the ACC, Virginia had won all of its games, and we would have been like, well, they beat Pitt, and Miami, and Georgia Tech, and they're probably not that good, but they went undefeated, so they should be in the playoff. But man, it's going to be fascinating to see how good they are. But Clemson has all these years of proving it under their belts, so it's just a different deal with them. I don't think they've necessarily proven a whole lot this year, but they didn't have the opportunity, except they were dominant against an okay schedule. But they've proven enough in the past, and there are enough players back, and the whole program and the whole system's in place, that I know what this system and what these players and what this coaching staff is capable of. I think they're probably the best team in the country.
Well, and I'll say this, and I know I'm not offering an olive branch here. I'm just being completely and totally respectful. Once again, a lot of people are shocked when they meet me versus seeing Bobby. Once again, totally an act. But, though I do share my football opinions. Look at Ohio State. Ohio State has talent on both sides of the ball. There's a lot of big name players. My God, you're looking at Chase Young and Justin Fields, going all the way back to the recruiting of Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence out of that same metro Atlanta area. There's so many ties here. J.K. Dobbins, the great running back. I remember watching his very first game with Ohio State. Tons of talent on both sides of the ball. And I'm going to say this, and I know if I'm an LSU fan or Oklahoma fan, you're watching this video, you're going to trash me. I'm used to it. There's no big deal there. First of all 4 of these teams are capable of winning this whole thing. All 4 of these teams have the ability to come in and play football and do very, very well. LSU's story is a great story, though I think they've overcorrected and now their defense is struggling. Go figure. Look at Oklahoma. Oklahoma, their defense is better now. Is it an Ohio State or a Clemson? No, but their offense is still killing it, but their defense has gotten better. Jalen Hurts, unless you're talking, as I said, unless you're talking to like a senior on Clemson's football team, there's nobody else playing in this game who has more playoff and national championship experience than Jalen Hurts. There's so many good stories around there. So tons of respect. Here goes the statement that's going to piss off a lot of people. And that is, I believe this is truly the national championship. You have 2 teams who has the complete package, defense and offense. And there's a lot of grit and grime down in the trenches. I mean, these guys can go at it on both sides of the ball, offensive line, defensive line. Both teams are fighting for dominance. You have highly skilled players who you can just get the ball to them really quick. They can make one man miss and make you pay for it. That's why I really feel like this is truly the national championship. I've heard people whisper it as almost it was like you're saying something bad about somebody, like, I think this is the real game. Yeah, I believe it is too. Now, could I be wrong? Obviously. You could ask my wife how many times I've been wrong about things, and she could give you a list. But really, I believe this is the game. I believe this is the game. Whoever wins this game, as long as everybody stays out of trouble and everybody stays healthy, this is truly the game. I believe that will crown the national champion.
So we agree in that regard, and I've already stated that, so I'm already on record. I had the same thought in 2014, the first year of the playoff, when Ohio State and Alabama played. I didn't necessarily care what Oregon and Florida State did. I felt that the winner of that game was going to win the national championship, and they did. I don't think that we've had that since that game that I can recall as I go through the years, where I felt as though, okay, this semifinal game, these are the 2 best teams, but I feel the same way about this this 2019 matchup with Clemson and Ohio State. Do you root for the ACC? Does it bother you that the ACC is disrespected? And I think for good reason it's disrespected. I won't go on my rant of how bad I think the league is, but how much, and I know, and see, this is the condition I tried to put on. I put on my criticism of Dabo Swinney was I understand he's in a tough spot because he almost has to speak out of both sides of his mouth. On one hand, he just wants to say basically, that's not my responsibility. That's the rest of the league. It's their coaches, their athletic administrations. They got to get their act together. He didn't say that, obviously, but basically, that's not my responsibility. But at the same time, all coaches, especially if they have any length of tenure at their school, they defend their league. They stand up for their league. And he partially did that as well. We play good football. Virginia Tech could go somewhere else and play, be 9-3 or 8-4 there as well. So he kind of rides both sides of the fence. And I'm not blaming him for that. It would be difficult to be in his position.
Well, this is where me and a few of my friends, we disagree. Look, I get for pulling for a conference. I'm one of the very first ones, being a Clemson fan, one of the very first people who go after the SECers. I remember about 3 or 4 years ago, Tennessee was playing some team in a bowl game. It was maybe 2015, and they're dominating this team. And at the end of the end zone, you have fans, Tennessee fans, lined up going, SEC. And I'm sitting there going, this has nothing to do with your dominance. So I pick at the SEC. Hey, look, it's great for your conference to do well. It does bring a lot of respect to the games you play. You and I could sit here and talk about that and burn up a lot of time. Yeah, it's great for your conference to be tough because it's easier for you and I to get on here and talk and say, well, hey, Ohio State beat Wisconsin twice this year. Clemson, who knew that Texas A&M was going to be underperforming this year? Who knew that things were not going to pull together for them? Who knew just a couple of years ago that Florida State, God knows what will happen at Florida State. I'm still scratching my head on that one. Who knew that NC State, a school that has talents like Jacoby Brissett, Phillip Rivers, Russell Wilson played there, and a host of other great players. Who knew that they were going to fall off the mount? I mean, the list goes on with the ACC. But at the end of the day, to answer your question, I could give a rat's rear end about conference. If Duke is playing Ole Miss, I care less who wins, as long as my team wins. Because I always pick the SEC fans, Mark. I would say this. You realize every time you pull for Alabama to win that national championship, that means they're going to continue to get those players, and they're going to recruiting, and they're going to continue to be dominant, and that means they're going to dominate you. Does that not register for you to some point? So I'm very careful. I'm very careful of how insulting I am when I say it, but at the end of the day, that's how I look at it. So, but yeah, I mean, the ACC sucks. I mean, and then you were talking about Sweeney having to defend it. I mean, well, let's look at this, and I'm not even saying this towards you. I'm just saying, think about this. Like you said, it's not his business to change anything. It's not like in the SEC, some of these guys, some of these schools got together and decided all at once, Tennessee's been good for some amount of time. It's time for them to suck. Nobody does that. Nobody has that say. So we're stuck in the conference that we're in, and the only thing we can do is go out and dominate the games that we play, and hopefully get to a college football playoff like we are now for the 5th consecutive year, and go from there.
Absolutely. So it's Bobby Durkins on the line. You can catch him on YouTube. So if you've yet to do so, you love Clemson, you love college football, just get on over there and just look up Bobby Durkins in the search function right there. And there it is. That's the spelling. And check out his YouTube channel right here. And we appreciate the conversation. Bobby, is there anything else you got to lay down concerning this matchup? Anything that, let's say, so I hear that you believe Ohio State's the second best team in the country, but I don't want to say supremely confident. You wouldn't be shocked if Clemson lost, but you're confident that they've got the best team. They've got the playoff pedigree, of course, and they shouldn't be, the stage is not going to be too big for this football team. But what would give you maybe some cause for concern either before kickoff or just after kickoff if you saw this happen or that happen that might, outside of like turning the ball over 5 times and lose the turnover battle 5-0, what would give you maybe some cause of concern, whether it be right now or early in the game, that would make you think, okay, maybe we don't have our A game, or maybe Ohio State's even a little bit better than I thought?
Well, I think one of the things that I look at is I believe our players, and it's one of the reasons Trevor Lawrence threw 8 interceptions in the first 7 ball games. I mean, since then he hasn't thrown an interception, but he was trying too hard. He was thinking too hard. He was thinking too much. He was trying to live up to expectations. Expectations for Trevor Lawrence was he's supposed to come out and throw for 6,000 yards, 60 touchdowns, no interceptions, and possibly rush for 1,000 yards. None of that happened. It didn't turn out that way. But we're still undefeated. His numbers are still fantastic, and we're still sitting in the college football playoff. My fear for Clemson is that they are going to try to replicate something that has come. It was wonderful when it happened. It's now in the past. And that's one of my fears for Clemson, is that they're going to try to replicate their success. That Alabama game was still in this calendar year back in January. So it's not too long ago. It's not like we're talking about a couple of years ago, but you have a lot of returning players. Next thing I would say is, if Clemson cannot protect Trevor Lawrence from that great rush with Chase Young and the rest of the players, that can be a very, very big problem. In fact, I will give you my asterisks for the game for either team. Whoever can pressure the quarterback most effectively wins this ball game.
There it is from Bobby Durkins. Again, check him out on YouTube. Brian, Bobby, we appreciate you stopping by. We enjoyed the conversation here when it's a little bit toned down. And obviously, by inviting you on previously, I enjoy the act. I enjoy the character. It's a whole lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun to do. It's tiring at times, but it's a lot of fun. Mark, thanks for having me on. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you, and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas to you.